my mom ran to the door. I stood on top of the counter and I hit her in the head with the hammer. And then I hit her again with the hammer, and again and again. There was just so much blood everywhere.
A bloody hammer was found in the garbage can.
You think, like, what animal would do that to somebody? Why would you do that? It's horrific.
And then the dog Champ came out. We heard her yelling, and I hit him with the hammer. I tried to choke her because she was like gurgling, and I didn't want her to be suffering. And I told her I'm sorry, and I loved her.
This confession from 25-year-old Sarah Vercauteren shocked all of Pennsylvania. She confessed to savagely killing her own mother in their trailer home on December 31st, 2013, smashing her head in 18 times with a hammer. Sarah's attempts to get away with the murder continued. However, things were soon about to change for her and everyone who knew her.
I was completely traumatized.
Larry Wagner, Dawn's ex-husband, visited the house on January 9th, 2014, after many failed attempts to contact Dawn. But he could never have anticipated that he would find his ex-wife dead on the bathroom floor. Traumatized, he dialed 911.
I went right from the station, received the search warrant at the local magistrate, and then from there to the scene.
When you walk in there, you smell death.
There was blood splatter that started in the kitchen, and there was blood through the entire trailer.
The scene was haunting, and the investigators couldn't help but notice the dreadful condition Dawn's body was in.
Her hands were up around her face as almost like a protective covering. She had a blunt force trauma from her head.
Her ankles were bound with duct tape. Her wrists were bound with duct tape. She's on the floor, just covered in dry blood. The evidence that was observed on the victim's body gave us an indication that she was deceased and in the area, in the residence for a period of time, at least 4 or 5 days.
They didn't need an autopsy to confirm that she was murdered. But when the results came through, they showed that she had been hit on the head 18 times with a hammer. The investigators couldn't understand what motive someone would have to kill Dawn, as she had no bad blood with anyone. Obviously, there was only one person of interest at the time, Sarah, but she was nowhere to be found. So the investigators tried to learn more about Sarah from Larry to find out if there was anything that could have led her to do this. And from Larry, they learned something that put Sarah on their radar.
As she got older and still in high school, I think the quality of people that she met at that time were changing. And I think that she began to gravitate toward that. Sometimes the cool kids are the cool kids and they're not the best kids.
As Sarah grew older, she started acting independent. Her new friends weren't cool, they were drug addicts. And by the time she turned 17, Sarah found herself immersed in the world of heroin.
She's not taking care of herself, she's spending time away. We started noticing that she's losing a lot of weight. She'd go into the bathroom upstairs and we would hear her physically getting sick and vomiting.
Beyond this, as Sarah struggled with drug abuse, her relationship acted as fuel to the fire. Her on-again, off-again relationship with her boyfriend became another obstacle in her life.
She would say, "We're fighting. He's being a jerk." And they wouldn't see each other for a couple days, but they'd always get back together again.
But very soon, Sarah became pregnant and gave birth to a baby boy. And as it turned out, the happiest person to see the newborn child was Dawn.
She was excited. She was going to be a grandmother. Her focus always was about her grandson.
She worked very hard to provide a good life for her daughter and her grandson, but really fell on Dawn to support her grandson and try to keep the family together as best she could.
But the growing responsibility of keeping an eye on her addicted daughter and a newborn baby took a toll on Dawn. But despite this new burden, Dawn found joy in these days.
Getting her life straightened out, and she said she was doing really, really well.
However, despite being a responsible mother and grandmother, she was about to face a horrific fate.
Larry was listed as her emergency contact at her place of work.
As the investigators learned these details from Larry, they knew that the only thing to do was for them to find Sarah. Soon, they found surveillance footage from a Delmont Walmart, which showed Sarah buying cleaning equipment. And with this, their suspicions began to grow stronger. Sarah was still nowhere to be found, but finally on January 7th, 2014, an incident would end this long search.
Last week, police arrested and charged Vercauteren with trying to rob a Subway and successfully robbing a PNC bank in Olympia Shopping Center.
Sarah was finally caught by the police trying to rob a bank, and she was immediately taken into custody. On January 10th, 2014, a day after her mother was found, Sarah was brought into the interrogation room.
Sarah, for the record, can you state your full name and date of birth?
Sarah Vercauteren, and my date of birth is 10/02/88.
Sarah, you know why you're here today? Okay. All right, basically you're here today regarding an incident that happened involving your mother. Okay? What can you tell me about the incident that happened back on Tuesday, December 31st?
Let me tell you everything that happened.
Yes.
My mother came home at about 6:30 at night, and she was sitting in the living room and was talking about how she's fed up with everything and fed up with people using her and my dad and stuff like that. And I was really dead sick. And I asked her if I could use her car to go get marijuana, but I was really going to use it to go get heroin. And I think she kind of knew that. She told me no. And I just wanted to get high. And so I went into the kitchen, and she was in the living room watching TV, smoking a cigarette. And I was making pizza, and her back was towards the kitchen, so she couldn't see me. And I asked her again to use her car, and she said, "No, I'm not using my vehicle. I don't care about marijuana. You're not using it." And I got really upset, and my body got really hot, and I seen the hammer, and I picked up the hammer, and I stood on top of the counter, and I hit her in the head with the hammer, and she screamed out, "What the fuck?" And then I jumped off the counter, and then I hit her again with the hammer, and again, and then the dog Champ came out. We heard her yelling, and he nipped me in the back of the leg, and I hit him with the hammer, and he stopped and went behind the couch. My mom ran to the door, and I pushed her. Hold on a second. I pushed her, and then he kept hitting her in the head with the hammer. I don't know how many times, just kept hitting her.
Dawn was horrifyingly beaten, but tragically was still alive to witness the extent of her daughter's actions.
There was blood everywhere. And I didn't want my son to get up because he was sleeping in his room. And I don't want her to hear. I don't want him to hear her. So, when she was laying there, I took her by the hands and dragged her into the bathroom. And then I hit her again in the bathroom. And she said, "Sarah, you could use my car. I'm sorry, you could use my car." And at that point, there was just so much blood everywhere. And I told her I'm sorry and I loved her. And then I laid her down on the ground and I tried to choke her because she was like gurgling and I didn't want her to be suffering. And so I tried to choke her and I couldn't because it was so slippery. There was so much blood. And then I just left her there. And I went into the kitchen and got the duct tape. And I duct taped her leg because I didn't want her to get out of the bathroom and walk out and then tell on me. And so I tied her legs up and I seen that she wasn't breathing anymore. And then I went and I heard my son get up and he's saying, "Where's my mom? Where's my mom?" And I said, "Mom's fine, baby." And I took him into the living room and put cartoons on. And then I started cleaning up the blood. There was blood everywhere. And I was just using towels and anything I could find to clean up the blood. And then I cleaned up myself and got different clothes on. And I took her mat cards. And I took my son. I packed a couple of days worth of clothes. And I left. And I went to the back machine and pulled out, I think it was like $600. And I went to McKeesport and got a brick of heroin. And I went to the motel room with my son, and he was playing, and I called my friend because I didn't know how to shoot heroin. I never shot it before, and I really wanted to, so I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. And she came over and she did heroin with me, and she shot me my first time. She showed me how to do it. And then for the past 4 or 5 days, I was just strung out on heroin.
This chilling description is enough to unsettle even an experienced police officer. Sarah is emotional now, but her complete lack of emotion during the murder suggests a psychotic state. However, the more likely reason she turned into a monster was her desperation for drugs.
And I went back to the house and I cleaned up the mess, and I wanted to put my mom in bed, but I just couldn't go to the bathroom. And instead I just got high. And then after the money was gone and the dope was gone, I left. It was the 7th, and I was going to go to my baby's dad's court date, and it got canceled, and I was speeding for dope, and I went and robbed the PNC bank, and then I got pulled over and arrested.
So the vehicle is owned by who?
My mother.
Your mother? And why wouldn't she allow you to take the vehicle?
Because I'm pretty sure she's seen out I was dope sick, and I'm pretty sure she knew I was going to go buy dope. And she didn't want me to do that. But I was just so sick.
Dawn just wanted Sarah to stay away from drugs, but ultimately, she became a victim at the hands of the one she wanted to protect.
So the first strike, you're behind your mom, and you hit her in the head. And then from there, did your mom fall to the ground at that point?
No, she got up and said, she looked at me and said, "What the f***?"
Okay.
And that's when I jumped off the counter and started hitting her.
Sarah, where was your mom sitting when you first hit her?
The left seat. It was right in front of the counter, right in front of the kitchen counter. like her back was like towards the kitchen, so she couldn't see me. And she was watching TV and smoking a cigarette.
And you said you got the hammer from kitchen cabinet, correct?
The kitchen door.
Kitchen door. Was the hammer out for a while, or did you just grab it right at that time when you made that decision to hit her?
Just grabbed it.
Right, so you struck her one time. Her response was, "Ow, what the fuck?"
Mm-hmm.
Did she fall to the ground at all?
No, she didn't fall to the ground until I got off the counter and struck her again.
At that time, was she still sitting on the chair?
No, she fell by the TV.
In the living room? Okay, she fell to the ground. Describe to me what happened after that.
After that, Champ, the big dog, her big dog came out and heard her yelling, and he tried to stop me by nipping the back of my leg, but I hit him with the hammer in the head, and he stopped and went behind the couch, and that's when she ran to the door.
Dawn's loyal dog tried to protect her. However, in the midst of all this, he too suffered. We would just like to take a moment and point out the difference in affections of an animal compared to a human who killed her own mother because she was having withdrawals. And according to the neighbors, the dog howled for days after the murder.
Sarah, did your mom attempt to defend herself or stop the attack?
Yeah, when we were in the living room by the TV, she tried putting her hands up and blocking and tried to grab hold of my arm, my hands. But it was slippery.
Was she already bleeding by then?
Yeah.
While she's trying to defend herself, what did you do after that point, after striking her in the kitchen?
And then she was just laying there, like motionless, and so I thought she was dead. So I dragged her to the bathroom, and I laid her down, and she said she wasn't dead, and then she said, "You could use my car, you could use my car," and then that's when I tried to choke her, but there's too much blood and I couldn't grab hold of her neck.
Okay, sir, so you grab your mom while she's on the ground in the kitchen. How did you grab her? Grab her by her arms. At this point, is she fighting, squirming around at all? Okay, so you grab her by her arms.
Like she was like,
her arms are up in the air.
Yeah.
Her feet are on the ground, and you're just pulling her backwards. Okay? So you pull her through the kitchen, through the living room, and down the hallway.
The story has been unveiled, but the investigators continue to try to dig deeper so that they can get the clearest picture of the whole incident.
So this guy in the car went to the Sunoco.
Okay.
And then I went to the notice board and got a brick here. And then I stayed at the Highland Terrace Hotel for a couple days.
Did you stop and get cash? Did you use these debit cards anywhere?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
At the Sunoco, I used the Pinnacle account to get the money out. And then I used the Pinnacle one to get the room for a couple nights. And I paid cash some nights for the room. And then I used the choice checking to get cigarettes and food and stuff like that for the hotel.
Okay, so when you say you have a conversation with these people, telephone conversations, text conversations?
Text conversations.
And these text conversations were made on what? Mom's phone, your phone?
Mom's phone.
Your mom's phone. So you received text messages on your mom's telephone from coworkers, and you acted as if you were your mother. You responded to these messages acting as if your mother was responding. All right.
What friends or coworkers do you remember attempted to contact your mom?
Her friend, and then her boyfriend, and then my dad tried to call.
Anyone else try to contact her, either call her or text her?
My grandmother, but I didn't answer.
The details of these messages are not known, but it shows that Sarah was in a healthy mental state and was looking out for herself in that situation.
So how many days did you stay at this motel?
About 4 or 5 days.
Okay, so the first day we're going with Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
Saturday morning.
You stayed there for 5 days, 5 nights, or 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
So you left Saturday morning.
Around to about, he let me stay there a little bit later because I just rented the room for so long, so I left there about 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Saturday.
So Saturday, tell me about your day Saturday.
Saturday, I went and got, I think it was like 3 bundles, and then I went back to my house, the trailer, and I got high again, and then later that evening I went to the Walmart and got the cleaning supplies and the blue bin, and I went back to the house, and I took the Christmas tree down and the Christmas decorations down, and I cleaned the entire house, like the floors and everything.
Okay, this is on Saturday. Okay, this is day number 4 after the incident that happened at the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you left the trailer, did you have telephone communication with anyone else other than me?
Mm-hmm.
Did you decide to call anyone? Did you decide to call the police, medics, anything? Okay, so your mom is in the trailer. At this point, do you think she's dead? Okay, you feel that she's dead at this point. No phone calls. All right, so you go about your day on Saturday. Okay.
Sarah made sure that the trailer home looked normal to outsiders. She made sure to remove the Christmas decorations so that people didn't start asking questions. So after learning this, can we say that she actually regretted it at this point? Or was keeping herself safe more important to her than her loving mother lying dead in the bathroom for 4 days?
Thank you. Right now it is 16:25 hours. That concludes our interview. Thank you, Sarah.
If there's any questions, you can sit in here for a minute. If there's any other questions, we'll come back and ask you. All right, we're going to keep the audio and video recording running, okay? See if someone will sit with you, either myself or another trooper, one trooper.
After the preliminary hearing, Sarah, who was charged with first-degree murder and also robbery, was taken to the Westmoreland County Prison. Her son remained in the custody of his paternal grandmother. The trial began 2 years after the confession, and in April 2016, Sarah pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in the case of her mother, and she was sentenced to life in prison. At her sentencing, Sarah showed remorse by saying, "That was my mother. I feel like I should spend the rest of my life in prison because of what I did to her, and I should not get out." However, this may have been hypocritical, as in 2019, Sarah applied for an appeal, but the appeal was denied. Now, she claims to have turned her life around by speaking to fellow inmates about the dangers of addiction, believing it would bring her mother peace. Sarah is currently incarcerated at the State Correctional Institution, Cambridge Springs, a minimum security women's prison. Although she's doing better behind bars now, it's a bit too late, and Dawn will never get to see her grandson grow up. We can only hope that her soul may find peace. So, do you feel that Sarah really regrets her actions? Can a person who killed her own mother out of frustration ever turn her life around? Feel free to share your opinions. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have any cases in mind that you want to cover, please drop your suggestions in the comments section. Also, subscribe to Real Crime Psychology to uncover more cases like this. Until then, stay safe